with the voice of the Chicago Bears, Jeff Joniak.
Hi there.
Hi.
This is the first time we're in this scenario. I barely talked to you at Hallis Hall, let alone get interviewed by you.
Well, I tried to talk to you, but you don't want to talk to me.
That's
you just
not
close
true,
your
folks.
door.
That's not true.
Welcome to Indianapolis.
Thanks
Day
for
2.
the invite.
Oh, anytime.
I've been coming to this thing a long time. This is like my 28th.
And you don't get tired of it?
No, if you want to be in football, you got to be here. I mean, it's the convention. And given how many changes the Bears have had over the years, there's a lot of ex-coaches on other teams that are currently still in the league that you become friendly with over time. You respect them in their profession, and it's just a connection that you can't ignore. And I like to evaluate the draft. I'm a draft Nick, so I like it all, and called the Senior Bowl for SiriusXM for the second year in a row last month, and so I already started the process anyway. So I got about 130 of those guys done, and I just like to hear them talk, put a face to a name, and you just pick up things, and you never know when you're going to use them in a broadcast.
Well, that's what I found interesting, because you're walking around with your binder, and I
Yeah.
saw all your notes, and it was Latu, and I was like, oh, do you think the Bears might draft him? I don't know. He was very engaging. He has a great story. You were with him at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah,
and
he has a great
thought
story.
It was so interesting that, like you just said, you're picking up nuggets that you might use in a broadcast. They might be on the Bears. It's all projecting right now, but so many interesting stories.
But, you know, the teams you're playing, I mean, you get to know the guy, and then you ask questions about the guy from scouts that you trust around the league. But, you know, a story may come up today that I may not use for 5 years from now. Right? But back at the Combine in 2024, XXX, this. And so I just feel you're just building a database in your mind. And when you're doing broadcasts, it's not like baseball, Cassie, where you can tell long stories. They got to be quick nuggets. There's not much time between plays, but doing podcasts and interviews like this, and because it's the Bears owning the draft for the second year in a row, I got a neon sign over my head. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And so you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for anything. And I tell them, I don't know. I've even had other coaches this week from other teams
They're using you to get.
Hey, what are they going to do? I go, I don't know. What do you think they're going to do? And that's because you twist it, and then you get more info. Cassie.
Okay, so tell me, what do they think that they're going to do?
Man, I believe this. Ryan Poles is a quiet storm. And the other day when he was speaking, I was very impressed, because that man is intense, but he was relaxed. He was smiling. I mean, he's in the catbird seat. And this is one big game of chess right now with the rest of the 31 other teams. And when he said there's literally hundreds of scenarios, well, I'm sure there's not hundreds, but there's a lot. And a lot could happen. So what are you going to do if somebody offers you the moon? What if they just offer you the stars? I mean, I don't know. I think you have to do your due diligence no matter what people say. And yes, Caleb Williams, the number 1 rated player in the draft, more than likely, including guys like Marvin Harrison or any other player on the offensive side of the ball. He is a possible generational talent. I say possible because we've seen things go in a different direction because of circumstances and whatnot, but I think they have to do their due diligence, interview all the quarterbacks, go to their pro days, figure out exactly, and that's just not quarterbacks, it's every position, and find out what's what. And you got to peer into the soul of a person, and you got to find out if they're actually telling you the truth. And you ask questions you already know the answers to. So, these guys have already done a ton of homework. I'm sure that's how the scouts work. It's a 365-day, every year kind of job, and they've known about these guys for a long time before we ever heard about them. So.
I thought that Ryan Poles, as you mentioned, was very calm, and maybe I'm naive, but I felt like he was more honest than I was expecting. And when he said that he wants to do right by Justin Fields, and I didn't know if that was maybe him telling us that he's leaning in that direction or whatnot, but were you surprised by any of those comments of how he's treating that situation, or if you thought that meant anything?
I didn't read into it. I just know that he's dealt with players this exact way. It doesn't matter if it's Justin or the Jalen Johnson matter or when it was Roquan Smith. He is transparent with these guys, and he's as transparent as he can be as a general manager to the media. And when he gets to that podium, there's this misconception, I believe, with today's engine of football and all the different reporters that are podcasters or whatever, that podium is a voice to the locker room. It is a voice to the fans and us as well, but it's also a voice to the locker room, and it can't change from the message that's inside the building. So I see no reason to change that. And not everybody's that way, obviously, but he's taken that approach, and he drills deep down to find the answers, and he's never going to stop. And I think in terms of Justin, you don't owe a player anything, actually, in my opinion, but it's the starting quarterback of an NFL team in one of the largest markets in the country and the charter franchise of the National Football League. So there's certain decorum that also has to be addressed, but you have to evaluate things for the franchise and its future. And on the side, it has, okay, well, you know what, he's done right by us. You got to also factor that in as well.
Yeah, you've seen so many quarterbacks come through this team.
A lot.
Like, what makes a quarterback walk in and win over the city, the fan base, and also the locker room and the team? Well,
win. Then
they
you're
want
beloved.
Winners, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
I know. Well, you know what? It's like you got to win over your coaches and your teammates first. That's the only thing, honestly, that matters. Yes, we all are fans, and we want to. The one thing about Chicago, and you're a native, so we love to touch and feel our superstars in this town. Go way back in time, from Ernie Banks to the modern day, moving into Frank Thomas, and of course MJ and the Bulls and the Blackhawk Stars, and this town is that way. It's not. They just want to be somebody. They want to hang around you a little bit, in a manner of speaking. And so when players do that, fans love them, even if they're not a superstar or if the team's not doing well. And there's always a star on a team that doesn't win. And if it's the quarterback, that's even better to lead the way. But just you gotta grow roots in your locker room. Because it's not given, it's earned, the respect. So no matter who's going to quarterback the Bears, you got to earn the locker room. You have to re-earn it every year, too. It just can't be a one-and-done type of situation.
Yeah, well, I think that's why there's so much pressure on this situation, because Caleb Williams, as you mentioned, is the obvious number one prospect, and there have been concerns out there. I know there was an article released today said he would gladly be excited to come to Chicago.
I heard about this.
He loves
Pete
deep
Thamel.
dish pizza. He loves Walter Payton, Michael Jordan. But we're curious people, and obviously I would love to be a fly on the wall in that interview room, although it's only 15 minutes. Like, what would you want to ask Caleb Williams in that when you get him face to face?
I want to find out how much he loves the game. That's number one. Because you don't want a guy that's talented, but does he really love the game? Is he gonna commit? Is he gonna commit? Because that position, you got to be the first in, last out. You got to be a leader, and again, that's an earned title. It's not something that you can just say I am. But I just want to know what his love of the game is. What has prepared you to get here? What steps have you been taking? And they know a lot of it already.
They're like FBI investigations.
100%. Yes,
they're
100%.
Crazy.
Yes, they have to be. It's a very expensive adventure. And notice how I said adventure, not event. It's an adventure trying to find a quarterback.
Well, it's all projecting.
It's the hardest thing in sports. There's nothing harder. And the second hardest thing is, I just learned this the other day, and I haven't double checked these facts, so got to fact check me, Cassie. Since 2021, is a whole new crop of offensive coordinators. There's nobody pre-2021 with their original team, which is my next point. You got to have these offensive coordinators. If they come in, they develop a quarterback, now they're a head coach candidate. Okay? Or they don't get a long leash, in a year or two you're fired. So it's a constant change.
Anymore.
Well, more offensive coordinator, like you have to find, and that's the second hardest thing. And maybe it's harder than the quarterback to find the right offensive coordinator to pair with the right quarterback. Because if that relationship isn't good, it could be spinning your wheels also.
What makes you think that Shane Waldron is the right guy to whether it's Fields or a
we're going to find that out. Just talking to people I know out west, they have a lot of great things to say about him. So yes, it's part of that tree of the Shanahan, Sean McVay, but it's going to be the Bears offense. It has to be. And what I really like about this, and I don't know if people have really discussed this much, I love the fact they kept the offensive line coach. Chris Morgan is outstanding. I think he's done a great job, but giving him the title of run game coordinator is a significant thing. And now it's a common label. I keep an Excel sheet of all the coaching moves every year, and I had to recreate, some titles because almost every team has a running pass game coordinator on both sides of the ball. But when they talk about collaboration, that sometimes can be viewed in many different ways because you don't want too many chiefs. You don't want to have too many voices in somebody's ear, but you collaborate with a run and pass game coordinator with the offensive coordinator, and everybody gets on the same page, and you distribute your message to your team and your quarterback. And I like this process to have the offensive line coach be the run game coordinator. That's going to be a significant, I think, addition to this whole mix for Shane Waldron, who does like to run the football. I know he likes to use the tight end, but again, you gotta retrofit this to fit what they have in personnel-wise. So whatever quarterback is going to start for the Bears in 2024, or whoever is going to compete for that job, because that's another scenario.
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm not a fan of that one.
What if both are here?
You think that could work?
Hey, listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not going to eliminate. I'm not just giving away a player, and so there's nothing like competitive fire. Like in our business, there's competitive aspects of it that brings out the best in you or me or Jeff Weiris, our cameraman.
The best.
The best. I wish the shot was a little brighter here. I don't.
Forgot his
no
powder.
Makeup. Yeah, I don't know. But it's happened many times, and I don't buy the argument of today's league it's going to divide the lot. It's this. No, it's about putting your big boy pads on and competing. This is a competitive situation. This sport is ultra competitive, and I think it could really, again, it depends on everything falls, but I'm not going to just dismiss it as a possibility.
Have you heard something?
No, I have not.
Well,
I hear nothing. I see nothing.
Well, that would bring out either the best or the worst in either people.
Maybe
that is the
Right.
way you find out,
exactly
who these quote-unquote human beings are in this situation.
Exactly.
Ryan Poles obviously was in Kansas City before this. Ian Cunningham with the Eagles, the Ravens. They've learned from people who come from winning organizations. Like, what do you hope he learned, or what have you heard that he's learned through Kansas City, going through the process of picking out Patrick Mahomes and being like, all right, he's not on the top of these boards or the top of these quarterback lists, but this guy, he is generational talent? Because a lot of people say we put that on Caleb Williams too quick, or maybe we tossed that word around too much in general.
We do.
But what do you hope he's taking from that organization and bringing here as he's holding all this stress with that number one pick?
Well, it's like, when we took notes in college, and maybe you save some of your notes from your best classes and it's sitting on your shelf somewhere, or maybe not.
Yep.
But you reference stuff, and your mind's a catalog of all this. Okay, what was the process? They didn't rush him in there. Played behind Alex Smith. I mean, not every team's got that luxury, and we don't know that yet. But I think being through the process and seeing the things you didn't do right and the things you did do right is certainly beneficial in this scenario. And he's had, this is going to be, a couple years with Justin Fields. So again, a young quarterback that's trying to develop and trying to grow. And he did. Dynamic runner, the most dynamic in the NFL, in my opinion. So there's elements of all of this that you can apply. But every situation, every player, every person, every personality, every character is different. So you could take some of the highlights, but you still gotta find out what's best for whomever quarterback you're going to select. If you're going to select a quarterback high in the draft, you got to go through the process and come up with a game plan that's unique for him. You can't. It's not one size fit all, and it's no linear path. There's just not.
Quick question about free agency with that coming up in a couple weeks. What areas would you like to see them focus on?
Well, I'm not a free agent fan.
Oh.
I don't like spending a lot of money on talent like that. I know that you have to do that. You go
saw
and
Montez Sweat factor.
Well, he was purchased in a trade.
True,
I love that. And then you paid him because now you know there. However, you overpay in free agency. That's the bottom line. You're paying high prices. So I like to grow my own, and that's why I like that Ryan Poles. This is his philosophy. He's not gonna waver from that philosophy. So he's going to be judicious. He's going to be selective, And that's been the process so far. And if he likes something, he's going to strike fast. I mean, T.J. Harris was the first free agent to sign in the National Football League last year.
Great price.
He could have played in any number of places, wanted to be a Bear. So find the guys that want to be a Bear first and foremost, and not just go for the payday. And the positions, listen, it's hard to find big men. There's only so many on the planet, right? So the line of scrimmage is always something I'm going to focus on, and I think you can never have too many guys. So could be an edge rusher. You heard Matt Eberflus say it's a position you got to roll them in, rotate them in. The best playoff teams have guys that are able to do that and be versatile, position versatility. There's a lot of good safeties that are on the free market, and really, I do kind of categorize the top 100. Don't have them all memorized right now. I'm trying to focus on the draft, but there's a number of veteran safeties of note that could fill that role that Matt Eberflus suggested. Hey, he's got to have some speed, got to be able to run off the hash, sideline to sideline range, and be a ball hawk. So there's some of those guys on the free market. So those are areas that I would look at. And then I look at, the running back position.
Interesting.
Everybody's trying to devalue the running back.
They want to stay young and cheap.
Well, everybody's devaluing that position, but boy, I'm reading this Bill Belichick book, The Making of a Coach. I'm halfway through it, and there's a part in there about the Super Bowl when they played the Rams and how he stopped Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk, the offense of that Kurt Warner greatest show on turf, ran through Marshall Faulk because he was a 3-down back that could run between the tackles, burn you on the perimeter, and be an outstanding pass receiver. So his job was to shut that down. Now, if a defensive-minded coach is thinking that way, then I need a running back. And I'm not saying he's not on the roster. I'm just saying there's some going to be in the free agent market that are 3-down backs that are outstanding pass receivers, and you can threaten a defense. You want to stretch those defenses horizontally and vertically as much as possible and keep them on their heels. So
and
weapons. They just want weapons.
We say that the Bears had the best run game in the league, but it was Justin Fields, and I felt like they did really miss David Montgomery as they went through that season. Yeah,
listen, I'm an Iowa State grad, so I certainly love David Montgomery, but there's a lot of running backs, and there's a lot that are going to be pushed down in the draft also because, again, the value is different now. And I just, I'm a guy that pick the guy that's going to fit your team the best. If there's a price to it, no question about it. Jalen Johnson's a perfect example. There's a price to it, but you got, I hope we keep him. I hope that's the investment. It sounds like it's tracking in that direction because I think he's about ready to take off.
Do you think he resets the market?
It's highly possible.
That would be what, $21.5 million?
It's highly possible, but if that's listen, you go to the grocery store, you're buying eggs, and they're a little more expensive today. So that's what you got to do. You got to do it, and he bet on himself, and he's going to make money because of it, one way or another. If the franchise tag is the option that you don't really want to do that, right? You don't have to, but it's at their disposal.
All right, you calling a playoff game next year?
Dang it, man. I hope so. It's been a minute now. Yes. There's nothing like playoff football.
Heard it from Jeff Joniak, the voice of the Bears. Yes.
Hey, who knows? But, they're tracking that direction. Would you agree?
I think so.
Yeah.
Still a few holes to fill.
100%. But every team's got holes.
And if they do bring in a rookie quarterback, that's obviously an outlier that you don't really know what's going to happen. But I think they have the draft capital that they can still build. Yes. They have free agency to build, and I can see it.
Listen, right now, I can look in the camera and tell you the Bears will be better in 2024. No question about it. How good? You got to wait and find out.
You got a mic drop.
I'm not dropping the expensive mic, but that would be a good thing to do.
Yes.
All right, Cassie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun
in
Indy.
You too.